Shut up. No.
I'm sorry, man. I blacked out for a second.
This is Coach Bruce Pearl. I love the field of 68 after dark. I listen to it all the time. This is Duke head coach John Shire. Check out Field of 68 After Dark.
This is Xavier head coach Sean Miller. I highly encourage you to take a look at After Dark, led by the one and only John Fanta.
Now listen to you guys every morning when I'm getting ready. From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors. This is Field of 68 After Dark.
Oh, yes, it is Field of 68 After Dark on this Monday night, March 20th, in the year of our Lord, 2023. We are presented by our partners at Bet Rivers and by Underdog Fantasy. Use code FIELD, that's F-I-E-L-D, to get a 100% deposit matchup to $100. Folks, there is no time like the present. The madness is at an all-time level, both on the big dance floor and in the last 36 hours, as impactful of a day-and-a-half swing that the Big East Conference has had in a decade. I'm John Fanta. I've got the coach's perspective tonight. LaVall Jordan is here. The founder of the Field of 68, Rob Dauster, is here. And we are not going to waste any time.
I was waiting for you to say the idiot's perspective. You got the coach's perspective and the idiot's perspective.
Well, you know what? You are not an idiot. You are not an idiot.
I appreciate that.
You wore a great shirt tonight. You wore a great shirt tonight. Show everybody what you wore tonight.
Friars,
for those who are listening.
Friars. Best of luck, Friars. It's a rough one for you guys today. I feel for you.
And the reason why Rob Dauster's wearing Friars is, in case you were living under a rock all day, the news cycle today was taken over by the Big East Conference, which is where we begin. After 12 years at Providence College, 7 NCAA tournaments, Big East regular season title a year ago, Ed Cooley leaving the Friars for Georgetown. For the first time in the history of the Big East Conference, a coach makes a move from one school to another in the league. Jack DeGioia, Lee Reed, get it done in Georgetown's biggest hire since John Thompson. A massive hire for the Hoyas, a get-right hire, and they bring Ed Cooley in from within the league. LaVall Jordan, you coached in the Big East. Your immediate reaction to this news was?
I wasn't totally surprised. I guess the thing, it's funny because I know fans think about, like, coaches talk about best job in the league and like Georgetown is a highly desired job amongst coaches in terms of just the potential of the job. Like, everybody knows. And so and Lee Reed, I know Lee personally, he's awesome in terms of the athletic director. And so it wasn't a complete surprise. It's, the interconference thing is just the thing that everybody's, obviously Chris Beard to Texas from Texas Tech, just the interconference thing. But in terms of just that move in general, I wasn't completely surprised. Obviously, I think Ed thought long and deep about it. And, everybody knows the potential of Georgetown and what it can be. Obviously, it hasn't been that the past couple of years, but I think there's no question about what it can be and what's the area, the DMV and recruiting and Jordan Brand and all the things that come with Georgetown. And so it wasn't like a complete surprise, but I know it does send some shockwaves, on some level.
The most surprising thing to me was that, this is going to sound crazy, but that he actually went through with it, right? Because in my head, what I kept thinking was, Ed is going to be, he's going to be intrigued by this opportunity. He's going to be intrigued by the dollar figure. He's going to be intrigued by the idea of going to a program that was basically started by John Thompson Jr. And I think all of us here know how he views Big Coach and how he views the Georgetown program that he built back in the 70s. And I think that my reaction was like, wow, he's actually going to do this? Like, I never thought that he was actually going to be able to like rip the Band-Aid off and say, I'm leaving home. And I just, the concern that I have with, I think that I've gone on and on about why Georgetown should make this hire, right? He's the guy that can kind of navigate those DC recruiting waters. He is a very likable man. LaVall, you can attest to this. The way that he can kind of scheme and game plan and come up with different like he'll throw junk defenses at you, he'll throw offenses at you that you've never seen before. Like he's very good at coming up with stuff on the fly. And I think he's going to be a great coach at Georgetown, but it's just when you go to a program that is not your home, I think we saw it with Shaka Smart when he went to Texas. We saw it when Chris Mack when he went to Louisville. Like if things go bad, they're not going to have your back. You're just an employee as opposed to being one of them, you know? And so there's always a risk of that, but you can make a Final Four.
That's part of that, but Lee's proven he'll have his coaches back. I mean, and so, and you got to give Ed a chance to make it work now. It's not like you're coming in from ground zero in terms of starting. So there's some rope there for it to, you know, everybody needs this to go well from that perspective. And look, it's and I don't know how much it played into it. I know Bob Driscoll was he was at Providence for 21 years. That's Ed's guy. They had a new president, I think, in 2020. So leadership changes over. Even though you're at home, that's a factor. You know, when you're in this seat, you know the leadership is really important, and
you know what else it is?
Being connected and like that's an important factor in this.
Yeah, and you know what else it is? Like when you're Ed Cooley in Providence as the coach of Providence, you're living in a fishbowl, right? Like it's not to the level that Coach Cal is in Lexington, not quite that, but you're still, you know, when you go out to dinner, people notice, right? Right. I mean, Fanta, you could probably speak to this better than.
So here we go.
Oh boy.
Here we go. So
did I go back to him too soon, LaVall? Should I have kept the conversation flowing a little bit more before I got taken over by Fanta?
But here's what I would give Ed some grace. Is like Pete Gillen left for Virginia. Patino left for Kentucky. You know, Rick Barnes left for Clemson. Providence. So if I'm a Providence fan, like in the history of Providence basketball, this has happened before. It just wasn't an in-conference school, if that makes sense. Like, but I mean,
your rival.
I don't know how upset people were when Rick Barnes left for Clemson at Providence, but Rick Barnes left for Clemson.
Right. So here's my reaction to this news today. First off, the point about the fishbowl and Providence could not be more spot on. Ed Cooley had gotten to the point where he was so much of a king in Providence, and rightfully so, and that's what makes it hurt for the people of Providence, that I have it on good authority that frankly, he and his family were a little bit fatigued and turned into a lot of bit fatigued of not being able to go anywhere in public without having to kiss babies everywhere and sign autographs and do all that. Now, part of that comes with, like, one would argue you should relish that, cherish that, could always go away. But that got to be a lot. They couldn't go out without getting swarmed. DC is just different from that. There's also the angle of John Thompson here and Ed Cooley getting to the point where in 12 years at Providence, it's not common anymore in 2023 where a guy is spending more than 12 years at a school, nor alone 7 or 8. And so he got them to a Sweet 16 a year ago. He had the top tier recruiting classes for a period of time. He was nailing things in the transfer portal, but one would argue, what more was he going to do at Providence that he had not done already there? And the intrigue of a national brand, of a brand that he believes, Ed Cooley is taking the Georgetown job because, like it or not, Providence fans, I know that this frustrates them potentially. Ed Cooley believes he can win a national championship at Georgetown University. And that goes back to the resources, the commitment, the brand of the program. It's not to say it can't happen at Providence College, but that's why he is sitting in this position right now, is that he spent his time at Providence. He was king of the hill. He did max out. What more could he do there? And he's at a point in his career where either it's going to be end your career there or take on this opportunity. And he had always been enamored by Thompson and Georgetown. I remember when Georgetown was struggling in November and December doing games for FS1. We'd come in, Donnie Marshall and I would sit down and talk with Ed, and Ed would be, damn, they need a change. Damn, they need a leader. They can't keep bringing our league down. He knew exactly what he was talking about when he said those things. And now he is that guy.
And John, you're right on. Listen, for people out there that are listening, when you're in that seat, there's, obviously, what Coach K did at Duke, I guess, would be an example when you're the reason and the face. Right. And so those brands like that, 2019, was it when the Michigan conversation was going on with Coach Cooley, and they ended up hiring Juwan Howard. But, if you're the reason that everything happens at the school, when to be aligned with those brands at some point, it's intriguing, right? To be Michigan or Georgetown or Texas or, an Ohio State. There's just kind of big brand, not that you go for it. It has to fit. And obviously I think it fits with Ed in Georgetown. It's not, out of the box. It is, I think it's in the wheelhouse.
At its best, LaVall and Rob, at its best, where does Georgetown rank as a program in this sport?
At its best, probably.
At its best?
Probably, I would say top 20, LaVall. Because I'm not convinced that they're going to be able to build that home court into a fortress. And I think in 2023, you can't win at the level that you want to be able to win without having your home court be. I struggle to believe that on a Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m., you're going to be able to put 20,000 people in the, what is it? The Xfinity Arena. Capital One Center, whatever that arena is called. It changes names like every 6 weeks. Whatever it's called, it changes names more often than TO changes Twitter profiles.
What do you think, LaVall?
I don't know. I mean, it's one of the top jobs. Like, it's arguably the best job in the Big East, right? So when you're looking at conferences and again, the Providence kind of the reason has always been the coach, right? Whether it was Pitino or Barnes and when it was Keno, just big personality coaches. Those guys, Gillen, Ed, they've done well at Providence. When it was Keno, and I forget who else was there, Walsh, not as successful because they got different personalities. Georgetown's attractive for whoever. It doesn't matter. Not that it doesn't matter who the coach is, but it just amplifies the brand of Georgetown, DC. The university itself is, from an educational institutional standpoint, is a huge brand. And so, I'm happy for Ed. I know it's tough. It was tough for him to make a decision to do it. And I can't wait to see how it works out.
Yeah. And the last thought I would have on this is, among many, here's the deal, folks. Ed Cooley is a huge reason why Steve Napolillo is the athletic director at Providence. He helped Nap get that job. When Bob Driscoll announced he was retiring and this search opened up, Cooley went to bat for Napolillo. There wasn't some major disagreement between the two. Providence College did everything it could to keep Ed Cooley. They were willing to give everything in terms of resources, and the money's not that different. This move went beyond the money. But Providence did everything. No. Providence did everything that they could to keep him. And honestly, look, Providence fans should be pissed off. Providence fans should be upset. This is a sad day. It's a sad day for the Big East, too, to have an intra-conference thing. So I get it with Providence fans. I understand you're pissed off, and you should be.
I don't think it's a sad day. I think this is a great day for the Big East. Like, just in general, not for Providence fans specifically, but this kind of, when it comes to what people want to see, right? They want to see their favorite teams, and then they want to see the drama. They want to see the mess. There's a reason why, like, Keeping Up with the Kardashians and like what is it? I
don't watch those shows, Rob. I don't know. I don't watch those shows.
Yeah, I'm referring to the way it was done, Rob.
Why do you think Jersey Shore was so popular, Fanta? Like, people want to see the drama. They want to see the mess. And this is drama. This is messy.
Here's the
There's
thing,
hurt
John.
feelings. Like,
It-
how
you
many
can-
people do you think are going to want to see the first trip that Ed Cooley makes back to Providence? We're going to do a show there. I'm telling you right now, we're going to do a live show up at the Dunk the first time Ed Cooley comes back to Providence. Right? We got to. Like,
Here's
people
the
want to
thing,
see that. That's
John.
Go ahead,
good for
LaVall.
the national brand of the
we'll-
league. Like, it's not good for Providence fans, and I feel for
Yeah.
Providence. Trust me.
Yeah,
My
that's
favorite team, you see it
what
right
I
here.
meant.
I got all this Tottenham Hotspur stuff up here. We just fired our coach today. So, like, I'm feeling it. I'm hurting with you guys. That's why I'm wearing this in solidarity, okay? But, like, this is good for the league, man, because
You're on
people
the
are going to
team.
pay attention to it.
The thing that when you're like ultra competitive, Ed's ultra competitive. Like when John Beeline, I was with Coach Beeline when he left to go to the NBA, and everybody was like, "Why would he do that?" He's Michigan and the way it was going, and so close. There's the intrigue can get you. Like for Beeline, he always was. There was always a curiosity about that level because he had done it at every other level, right? And I think when you're Ed and it's like there's a curiosity about a place like a Georgetown. And I didn't know, Rob, if he'd actually go through with it, but that gets a coach. It's like, man, I wonder what it would be like if, and then you go down there and maybe affirm some things when you get to meet with the right people and have the conversations. And it's like, okay, let's go for it. Why not?
Look, the Big East is on top of college basketball right now. 3 teams of Sweet 16. That's tied for the most. And this move creates a ton of buzz. There's no question about that. I think I meant it as sad in terms of Providence. And look, there's no question the way that this was done, there are more than enough questions to ask about it. But it's done. And when Georgetown goes back up to Providence next year, that game right now is as compelling a game as any in college basketball heading into the 2023-24 season. Hey, we got a lot more to come. We're going to break down the NCAA tournament. We're going to talk with Sean Miller of the Xavier Musketeers. We're also going to react to the big news today. Rick Pitino is back in the Big East, taking over St. John's. This is Field of 68 After Dark, Sirius XM.
You're clear.
And with that, here's Rob Dauster on Underdog.
Today's episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play college basketball pick'em, where you can get a little extra sweat during March Madness and win real cash prizes simply by picking player stats in this weekend's games. In pick'em, all you do is predict whether a player will go higher or lower on Underdog's projected totals, whether that's points, rebounds, whatever. For example, if you're like me and you think Zach Edey is going to go nuts in this tournament, pick higher on his points projection, add up to 4 more picks, and if you hit them all, you can win 20 times your money on a single game. Underdog's slick mobile app is easy enough that dummies like Jeff Goodman have even figured it out. So go to underdogfantasy.com or download the app and use the code FIELD, FIELD, and Underdog will match your deposit up to $100. Now is the time to get in on the madness. So remember, underdogfantasy.com, promo code.
Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark, Sirius XM,
30
Channel
seconds.
84.
We're
not back on Sirius XM yet.
Kono let you go. He set you up for failure.
Thanks for doing
That
that.
was Kono's revenge for the people that didn't hear it. For the chat
Wait.
that's listening right now, we didn't. Kono is a SoCal guy, and we didn't say that UCLA was a blue blood last night. So he
10
just set Fanta up right there.
That was good, Kono.
My apologies. Here we go. 3, 2.
Oh, it's the Field of 68 After Dark, Sirius XM, Channel 84. We are presented by Bet Rivers. We are on YouTube. We're on Twitter. It's Monday, March the 20th, 2023. It is time. It is time to talk St. John's Red Storm basketball for the first time this deep into March that I can remember. The Johnnies making huge headlines today. Rick Pitino is back in the Big East. Father Brian Shanley, the president at St. John's University, got it done. 6-year deal, right around $20 million. Rick Pitino in Queens. Rob Dauster, what does this mean for St. John's University basketball?
Everything. It means everything. Like I told you guys this before we started going live, and I said this on our instant reaction show earlier today. But I think that if you put Rick Pitino on, like, if he coached this team this year with Pasha Alexander, with Joel Soriano, with David Jones, right? Daniel Jones is the Giants quarterback. I always get those two confused. With AJ Storr, like, I think that Pitino probably has them in the tournament and might even have them like borderline top 25 this year. I look at that roster, I look at the way that he wants to play, and it's already built for him. Like, he doesn't have to go out and remake this thing. He's already got guys that he needs. You know, like, just imagine Pasha Alexander in the Russ Smith role. LaVall, come on. That's right there. That's what he wants, right?
Yeah, he ain't Russ Smith though. But it'd be a yeah, coach.
Oh, I just brought up bad memories, didn't I?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I saw
Come
that
on,
one.
Rob.
I've seen those.
You know
both
what,
up close and
LaVall?
personal. He's not
LaVall,
Russ
he
Smith.
is an idiot.
See, I told you.
No, you
Coach?
know what? It's I mean, the Big East on top of conversation right now, John. 3 teams in the Sweet 16 and the 2 coaching hires. Look, Coach Pitino in New York, Madison Square Garden for the Big East. Like that, I'm happy for Val Ackerman. Yeah, you look at when the shift was made, and Syracuse leaves and Pitt leaves, and all the realignment, and obviously strong basketball. The strength of basketball remained with Villanova and a couple national championships. But no, you lose Jay Wright, but now you get Coach Pitino, Coach Cooley with the move. And so it's great for the league. Obviously, it's tough when Coach Pitino getting back in at Iona, and people had a lot to say about that, him coming back into the business at all, all the stuff that happened. But he can coach. He's taken multiple universities, is not a coaching thing at all. The man can coach. It won't take long either. That's the thing, John. Don't plan on this. I would say this to most people: don't plan on either one of these taking too long to be back up in the top, mid to top half of the league pretty quick. Like, don't.
It's going to be the turnaround is going to be really quick for Georgetown. To me, St. John's already could have been there, right? Like, they had the pieces to be good this year, but for Georgetown, like, just buckle up. They're going to find a way to get that done.
But here's my spicy take. I think St. John's will get it more quickly done than the Hoyas, because St. John's and talent, they already exist. They have existed. St. John's hasn't had the right head coach for a long time. They're out of the darkness. And I respect the people who were previously leading the program. It's not about that. It's not taking shots. I'm not in that realm. The fact is, they've tried to do the big press conference win. They tried it with Chris Mullin. Steve Lavin was a big press conference win. Love Lav. But it didn't work. Mike Anderson, it just never fit. Rick Pitino could fit anywhere. And guess what?
He has.
He has. And he might fit best in New York City, where he knows what the bright lights are. He knows what can happen if he gets rolling. He knows what Madison Square Garden can turn into. And he knows the Big East, the backroom deals, the mafia, the meatballs, the basketball. Rick Pitino knows all that stuff. He is Big East basketball.
He is.
St. John's fans should be celebrating. There should be a parade down Utopia Parkway. Gone are the days of we won the offseason and now we're going to have a letdown. St. John's can compete to make a Final Four in the Rick Pitino era. It can happen, St. John's fans.
That's saying a lot to get to a Final Four, but I do think that they are going to be.
I said can compete.
So here's my take on it. And LaVall, tell me if I'm crazy here. I think that with Rick Pitino, St. John's is immediately a top half of the Big East team. Right? Like, if you look at the top 5 in the Big East this year, it was Creighton, Providence, UConn, Marquette, and
Xavier.
Right? All 5 of those teams were top 25 teams at points during the season. We thought they were top 10 to top 15-ish kind of teams, right? I think St. John's immediately becomes a part of that conversation. with Rick Pitino at the helm. Now, does that mean they can make a Final Four? Who knows? You have to be able to combine luck of the draw, playing well 4 games in a row, getting the right talent. You got to have a certain level of like NBA guy there if you're going to be able to make that run. Pros just win in March. You got to get some really good guards, but I won't put it out of the picture. I think you're right, though. They are going to be in the mix and relevant every single year, starting next year, assuming he gets Posh and Joel back. And I think the fact that Mike Anderson was let go, like, what was it, a week ago, and Posh and Joel, they're not in the portal. We hear about everybody else getting in the portal. How many guys are in the portal right now? Probably like 2,000 by now, right? Posh and Joel aren't there. David Jones isn't there.
Yeah, I would say both teams have some. Look, Georgetown wasn't devoid of talent. Like Brandon Murray is a good player. Spears, I know he's in the portal now. And I can't remember the kid from Arizona State that transferred in. And then Stores is a really good freshman for St. John's. I liked him a lot. And obviously you got, Joe, the big fella Soriano and Posh. And so there's pieces there. Here's the thing. You throw in, now it's legal, right, John? That's the acronym for NIL. So you throw that in to it, and now it's the support systems around, because this is a thing now in college athletics. And every coach I talk to, the portal's hopping, and the first thing that comes up when you're talking to NIL. And so Georgetown, and St. John's, in terms of where they are with all of that, I don't know, but I'm sure that was a big part of the conversation with Coach Cooley and the administration, and like, hey, what's the vision and what's the mindset around it? Big conversation about Pitino and all those people that love St. John's. That's great, but this thing is a real thing. And so now, Villanova won't stay down. So I agree, Rob, when you're talking, when Connecticut came back into the league, I was in the league. Great for the Big East. Not great for everybody in the Big East.
It's true.
Hey, LaVall,
I'm dead serious. This was the conversation. Every coach was like, man, that's great for the league. Madison Square Garden will be packed. But man, Connecticut back in the league. Like, it's immediately they rise. They're going to be in the top 4.
Let me tell you something. Wait, hold on. I got to tell you something. Last week, I am at the Big East tournament, and I'm in the hotel room in the Marriott. It is championship Saturday morning, okay? So that, by elimination, would eliminate Marquette and Xavier. Another coach from a Big East school calls me at 7:40 in the morning. I am half asleep. I'm like a bear at the Marriott. The shades are closed. I mean, you could barely reach me, but something struck me to answer the phone. I answered the phone. It was this coach. He will remain unnamed. And he goes, damn, man, is Pitino getting St. John's? I said, yeah, I think he's going to. And he goes, shit. He goes, there is no way I'm going to be able to compete with that. Well, that's what the collective other Big East coaches were saying today when they knew.
That's the same thing, John, when UConn came. It was like, because they immediately go up there. Like,
I think that's why Providence fans are so frustrated right now, right? Because now, if you look at it, you're already the top 4 in the league are going to stay the top 4 in the league. I don't see Marquette, Providence, Creighton, or UConn really dropping off next year, right?
Providence will drop.
Marquette, Xavier. Sorry, Marquette, Xavier, Creighton, UConn.
No,
I don't think they're going to drop off.
Connecticut, Xavier, Marquette, and Creighton. Like, they're there. They're not going anywhere.
St. John's, they're there. They're now in that conversation too. Georgetown, it ain't going to be long before they're in that conversation too, right?
Nova's Nova. I'm just telling you.
Nova's Nova. Like, they're not staying down forever.
7 right there.
Yeah, that's 7 in a league that gets like 5 to 6. So all of a sudden, this just became, to me, I already said it, that the top of this league was the best of the best of any league in college basketball. I said it this year. Even when the Big 12 was rolling, everybody laughed at me. Look how many teams they got in the Sweet 16 now. Where you at, Big 12? You got 2. We got 3. What's up? But then now you got to figure, like, poor DePaul, right? Like, what are they gonna do, man? What are you gonna do?
Like,
it's hard.
It's hard. I feel for them.
Honestly, what a difference a year makes for Villanova. Like, what a difference a year makes for that program because they're not going to stay down. LaVall just said it. But
No, here's the thing, John. They're going to recommit. I can tell you this. I know this. They lost some guys in recruiting because of NIL. That's not what Nova, the people that support them, want to hear, but they had to hear. They're changing it. They won't lose those guys. That's a real factor.
yeah, it is. It
Hey,
is.
I got a real quick question for you, LaVall, and you can go as long or short as you want. One of the biggest criticisms that I've seen today is people saying they don't like the way that Ed Cooley handled this because he was being courted by Georgetown while the season was still going on. And I'm not defending the way that Ed handled it, because I think he probably could have used a little bit of help from the PR guy handling this entire situation. I don't think it was as clean as you would want it to be. It's never going to be clean leaving it. But when you are being, I guess, recruited or courted or targeted by another school while you're the head coach at a certain program, like, it's not uncommon for that to start in like late February, early March, right? Like, that process gets moving, and it's not them specifically calling you, or they're probably calling your agent, right? It's just kind of, can you walk people through what that process is and how it kind of happens? Because I think a lot of fans would be shocked to know, like, when the wheels start moving on a lot of these things.
Those conversations, look, if every athletic director has a list, if there's a change to be made, just similar to the way every head coach has a list for assistant coaches, like you kind of have it in case you lose someone. Those conversations, they're happening a while ago behind the scenes. The coaches, that's why you have representation, so you don't have to have the conversation, so it's not a distraction. And there's a gauge on how real the interest is, and how likely something is to happen. But that's not Ed's conversation or Coach Pitino's conversation to have. But it's not like it just, yesterday they start talking. It was, in the event that, something happens, would you be interested? And the most recent conversation gets down to the nitty gritty of, okay, here's the details of what I think it's going to take. And if they can do that, now you got to answer the question. So I think Ed genuinely did not know what he was going to do. Because it's home, it is home. It is Providence. He did build it.
Yes.
He loves that play. He loves it there. So, fans that like have something to say, it's like, stop it. Like, he's at a place that he loves for 12 years. He's home, and he had more pride in doing what he was able to do there. I think Coach Pitino was really probably thinking about what he was going to do.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is like Pitino went through the same thing with Iona. Like that, those rumors started flying.
Because he's done it. Like, think about what Pitino if he could sit there and say, man, if I could do it at Iona, because I've done it at Providence, I've done it at Kentucky, I've done it at Louisville. So what if I just sat here and stayed and did it at Iona? Like, I know I could go to St. John's and potentially do it. That's intriguing for a guy like him who's done it at the big levels to be able to say, hey, maybe let's take this challenge on.
Yeah, and I do think that with Cooley specifically, the circumstances, it's a conference rival. You're playing for you're coaching your hometown team. The attention that any move and any rumor is going to get. I think that also played a role in some of the level of maybe distraction, some of the level of outside noise, right? Like, I don't think you saw the same level of noise when other coaches are like Todd Golden left San Francisco to go to Florida, like literally the day after the NCAA tournament, but it wasn't, it didn't get the same level of attention because it was a guy from San Francisco going to Florida, not a guy from Providence going to Georgia. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Coaches get talked to behind closed doors all the time. This isn't a new concept. I don't understand why people are so upset about it. We have to take a break. This is Field of 68 After Dark, Sirius XM.
You're clear.
Sorry, so my bracket is already busted. Thank you, Kansas, who I thought would repeat. But don't worry, because if you're like me, you get a second crack at this. Yes, you get a second chance. You get a second chance. Run Your Pool is hosting a Sweet 16 pool for us. There's a $500 prize pool for the Sweet 16 Challenge. So you get to compete against us again. Wouldn't you want to beat all of us again? Don't you get satisfaction from beating Rob, from beating Goodman? You can make sure to check out Run Your Pool if you need to host any bracket challenge or pool as well. They have more than 50 game types for every sport you can think of, from a traditional bracket pool to survivor games, head-to-head games, pick-X games, and my favorite, squares. The scoring is customizable. You can tailor your rules to your liking. So make sure you get to play.runyourpool.com/field68 and get your picks in before the Sweet 16 tips off. I'm going to give you guys one more thing here on this because then we'll turn to madness. But everybody who was saying Patino and Providence.
30 seconds.
For our YouTube and Twitter viewers. The president at Providence is Father Ken Sicard. Father Sicard's boss was Brian Shanley at Providence. Shanley was the president at PC. He hired Ed Cooley. Sicard was never going to hire Rick Pitino and
10.
go against his former boss. Some
5
priest
seconds.
politics in the Catholic League.
Here you go.
It's the Field of 68 After Dark. Sirius XM Channel 84 were presented by Bet Rivers. It is great to have you all with us. I'm John Fanta. Rob Dauster's here. LaVall Jordan is here. Fellas, we've broken down the coaching carousel. We've talked up Pitino. We've talked up Cooley. By the way, Rick Pitino will be introduced tomorrow, noon Eastern time, inside Madison Square Garden. That is going to... LaVall Jordan is smiling ear to ear, thinking about...
I was wondering if it was going to be in Madison Square.
Yeah. Statement is about to be made by Rick Pitino tomorrow. And again, folks, do not bet against Ricky P. This thing's not going to take 2, 3, 4 years. This is going to take weeks, okay? If not days, if not minutes. The turnaround is real. St. John's fans should parade down 33rd Street in Manhattan tomorrow. St. John's is back. They're going to be a force. But let's turn to the madness here. So I'm Rob Dauster, I'm going to tee you up with this question here. All right? When you look at the Sweet 16, sir, the 16 teams we have left, the matchups that we have, you are most fascinated by what in this tournament at this point?
The guard play. It's not a single matchup right now that I'm specifically circling outside of the one that's happening in the first game in Vegas, and there's obvious reasons why I have that one circled. But it's the fact that there's look at all of the great guard play that made it. And I got a stat for you. This was dug up by our own Greg Waddell. There were 14 combined college seasons for Luka Garza, Kofi Coburn, Zach Edey, and Trace Jackson Davis. This is the accolades that they got. 5 first-team All-American nominations, 2 National Player of the Year awards. They won 4 Big Ten regular season titles and tournament championships 7 times. In those 14 years that those 5 gentlemen played college basketball, they were top 4 seeds. You know how many times they made it to a Sweet 16? Combined. All of them combined. You know how many times? Can you guess? Once.
Wow.
One time, and it was Zach Edey last year when Zach Edey was on the same team as Trevion Williams and Jaden Ivey. It's a guards game, man. Guards win you games in the NCAA tournament. And if you look at who has made it this far, Tyson Walker, AJ Hogarth, Jaden Akins. Pretty good guards, right? You look at Nick Smith, Anthony Black, Ricky Council. Pretty good guards, right? You look at Isaiah Wong, Nigel Pack, Jordan Miller. Wooga Poplar, one of the best names, LaVall. Guards win in March. Your guy Trey Burke, you guys made a national championship game with Trey Burke. You need guards. You need guards in March.
No question about it. And it's always been that way. It's not changing, John. You have to have it. And you look at Andrew Nembhard went for 30. The Kalkbrenner are loving. Andrew Nembhard went for 30 to get them to the Sweet 16. And he hadn't, he raised his level. And you have that. And so that's, as you look at the Sweet 16 moving forward, you're saying, Xavier, Texas, or Adam Kunkel was on fire. Sule Booms was Sule Boom, the Texas guards. Now, I know Dylan Dessou he was off the charts good. And it relieved some pressure off the guards, and Drew Timme, Gonzaga. So you're exactly right, Rob. Yeah, I'm just curious. Now you get to the point the raising your level, like Jaime Jaquez has done that before. Drew Timme, guys that have to go up a notch. That's I'm looking at these matchups going, man, there's guys that have done that. and taking it to it. Then there's guys that are trying to prove they can, like Marquise. Is it Marquise Noel?
Oh man,
Like he took it up a notch, and
he was
like
unbelievable against Kentucky. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and so that's been the fun. That's always the fun part to watch in the tournament. Just who raises their level, and sometimes it's guys you expect, and sometimes it's guys you don't expect.
Right. The 3 rapid fire things I would say about this tournament of the 16 teams left, and you guys can spring off of it in whichever way you'd like to here. Number 1, to your point, Kentucky played well. Like they had it clicking. They opened up an 8-point lead at one point on Kansas State. Sunday afternoon's game was one of the most fun watches of the tournament. That's a case where as well as Kentucky was playing, Kansas State had the best player on the floor, and he happened to be the point guard. I just thought Marquise Noel did so many things in that game to keep Kansas State alive so that when they did get their chance to take it, they took it with 2 threes on a day where they weren't hitting anything from beyond the arc. And Keontae Johnson's
step back was mean and vicious.
Yes. The second thing I have is I know everybody and their mother's on the Alabama train, and rightly so. But
Everybody?
I think a lot of people are to get to the Final Four.
Everybody?
No, a lot of people hate them. But if the basketball people, you're not.
Who do you think I'm
Come
on?
on, Rob. Look who you're talking to.
No, dude, Rob. To get to the Final Four, Rob.
Oh, okay.
To get to the Final Four, guess what? I think Creighton has something to say about that. If they beat Princeton, Elite 8 game between Alabama and Creighton, you just said it, LaVall. Ryan Nembhard's in control right now, and Ryan Kalkbrenner can cause problems. Creighton has never been to a Final Four. They're good enough to compete with Alabama and stylistically give Alabama problems. But the third thing, and this is the segue to Rob, there is no better pod of the 4 regionals, in my humble opinion, no more entertaining pod than the fact that in Las Vegas, you get Connecticut and Arkansas, Hurley versus Musselman. The officials deserve 3 times the pay that they would normally get for a game. And secondly, Jaime Jaquez and Drew Timmy on the floor together. UCLA Gonzaga, 17 years to the freaking day that UCLA came back on Adam Morrison, sent him into tears. Gus Johnson was going nuts. That they're going to meet in Las Vegas Thursday night. Rob, Vegas is the place to be. And will the Field of 68 be there?
Oh, we will be there. We will be there in mass. It's going to be we're going to be at the Stadium Swim doing pregame shows. We're going to be doing post-game shows on Friday and Sunday. We're going to be hanging out and watching poolside, LaVall. Apparently it's going to be like 60 degrees there, but you might be able to convince me and Fanta to have a cannonball contest. It might happen. It might happen. I don't know if I got a chance of winning. It might happen. Let me ask you guys this. I'm going to flip it back to you because I got my pick for this. Who has the best pair of guards left in this tournament? LaVall, who you got? You got to pick one.
My goodness. The best pair of guards remaining. It's hard to not say Houston because they've done it. My goodness. And it's also hard not to say Miami, and they're going to play each other. If I was picking right now, it'd be those two teams. LaVall and Pack and Sasser and Shed. Like, I can't wait.
That's going to be a great game. That's going to be a great game. Who you got, Fanta?
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to ride with Tyson Walker and AJ Hoggard right now. You asked me for best set of guards. I just think that those guys
throw Jaden Akins in there. Put some respect on Jaden Akins
and throw him in there as well. Right now, the way that they're in sync, Akins has come on. Tom Izzo identified him as that player that swings them in a different direction. They've got it cooking. Tyson Walker in late game situations right now makes the other team afraid. So I'm riding Michigan State with actually here's the thing. Miami's kind of a given because if Miami's backcourt plays to the level they're capable of, they beat Houston this week. And I'm calling for it. Miami shocks Houston in the NCAA tournament. Back-to-back Elite Eights for Jim Larinaga.
Yeah, they got to get to the 80s. They got to get to the 80s if they're going to make that happen. Because if they try to play an ugly game, then they're not going to be able to beat Houston at an ugly game. They're going to have to be able to score.
No,
You know who I'm going with?
easier
Okay.
said than done.
Marquise Noel,
Yeah.
New York City kid,
Mhm.
a little bit of an undersized guard, absolute bucket getter. You can do nothing to stay in front of him. A 3 seed that kind of came out of nowhere. Who does that remind you of? You guys remember? Kemba Walker,
Kemba.
12 years ago. Kemba's probably got about 3 inches on Marquise Noel, but they're both New York City kids. They both kind of play the same way. They both got a little bit of that same swagger. I'm getting some real Kemba Walker vibes from Marquise Noel.
Hey, he was everything you needed the other night. And it was like not, I don't say easy, but it was like you couldn't do anything with him. And
he made the hard stuff look real easy, LaVall.
oh my goodness, 9 assists, and then he got to the foul line, made free throws. Like it was, and he made everybody better, and he loved every minute. It was so fun to watch.
Yeah.
It was a blast. He was a blast to watch.
He made Big Blue Nation blue. He broke Kentucky's heart. Kentucky played well enough to win that game. And Marquise Noel said, not on my turf. He said, not happening. Hey, we're going to take one final break. After this, got a conversation with Sean Miller of the Xavier Musketeers. They are heading to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2017. All that and more. Field 68 After Dark, Sirius XM.
You're clear.
Do you guys ever get tired trying to prove that you won an argument, that your takes weren't hot, that they were right? Well, I've got an answer to your problems. Vaulted is a new sports prediction app that turns your opinions into facts. You could store all of your predictions and hot takes in your own vault now and forever. Challenge your friends, keep track of the results, and prove you are, in fact, the smartest. Rob tries to do this every day. Vaulted will also be releasing more than 50 pools in the next 3 months. So download the app at the link below, sign up for your 3-month trial, and store your predictions now and forever. It's Vaulted. Exciting. That was fun conversation about the guard play.
Yep. A lot of them. We didn't even
Fanta.
talk about Texas.
Fanta.
I know. Yes.
Fanta, whenever I say something that disappoints you, it just the way that you say, "Oh, Rob," reminds me exactly of the way that my grandmother, when I was a kid, used to be like, "Oh, Rob, what are you doing?" I just feel so bad about myself. Oh no, I disappointed Fanta.
I don't know if I do. Well,
Fanta.
yes, because you didn't hear me say Final Four for Bama. We know who you've got winning it all.
I wasn't paying attention. Look, I'm not gonna lie. All right, that just flew right.
Well, you're
over
on
my
how
head.
many
All I
hours
heard-
of
30
how
seconds.
many hours of radio have you done in the last 6 days? Like-
roughly 1 million,
Yeah,
close
right.
to it, maybe 2,
How was the live? How long did you go today for live reaction to the hires?
like 30 minutes. It wasn't super long. Like we just wanted to get something out there. The hard thing was we did a 2-hour pregame show on Sirius
seconds.
XM Fantasy. That was a lot. 2-hour radio shows long.
Wow.
Here we go. 3, 2.
It's a Monday night edition of the Field 68 After Dark, Sirius XM, Channel 84. We're presented by Bet Rivers, John Fanta, Rob Dauster, LaVall Jordan. Sweet 16, folks, tips off on Thursday with the action from New York City and Las Vegas. Then the action kicks Friday. Kansas City and Louisville hosting the regionals. Field 68 is going to have you covered from Vegas. Folks, you're going to want to be following us for that throughout the weekend. Cannot wait to deliver it. So, guys, let's talk a little bit about a program that's gotten back on the map here this year in college basketball before we get to the interview that Rob Dauster did with Sean Miller of Xavier. The Musketeers are headed to the Sweet 16. They had not made the NCAA tournament the previous 4 years, and Xavier will now play Texas in Kansas City on Friday night. Rob Dauster, Xavier has gotten to the Sweet 16 because
Their guards are absolute studs, and because they were able to get the best out of Jerome Hunter. Right? They don't beat Kennesaw State. They get run out of the gym by Kennesaw State if Jerome Hunter doesn't have a career game there. And the fact that we were questioning whether Xavier still had a chance to make a deep run in the tournament because they were going to have to play Jerome Hunter after Zach Fremantle's injury, I think says everything you need to know, LaVall, about the next man up mentality that team and that program. You need that. You need guys on the bench that are going to be able to step up and go do a job when you need them to do a job. Xavier needed Jerome Hunter to do a job, and he got him 25 when they would have lost if he didn't.
Yeah, two reasons, John. The culture with Sean, but Sule Boom, just talking to their staff and being around those guys. No one impacted they had talent, they had good players. He's a quiet leader, but his work ethic permeated throughout the man is regimented, and everybody follows suit. So they just continue to get better. That's one. And then two, role definition. Sean came in and told, Fremantle had to accept, you're not going to shoot threes. Jerome had to accept, you're not going to shoot threes. Here's what we need you to do if we want to be able to compete and get to the NCAA Tournament 1 and advance 2. And those guys had to accept those roles. It took a while. And now, that they have, now Jerome's thriving in that role, obviously in Fremantle's absence.
So let's get to that conversation. Rob Dauster talked with Sean Miller about his Xavier Musketeers, who are Sweet 16 bound and will meet Texas on Friday. Here it is.
Let me welcome on to the Field of 68 After Dark, Xavier head coach Sean Miller. Sean, a year to the day that you got the job at Xavier, you took him back to the Sweet 16. Just talk to me about how that feels, man, because I was really happy to see you guys make it that far.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. You really don't know. Well, first of all, a year ago today, you don't really know a whole lot about anything. In my case, just kind of grateful for the opportunity to get back in the game, especially at a place that was so good to me, in a conference that I really believe in and enjoyed the last time I was a part of it, which was actually a player, and to return to that conference as a coach, that in and of itself is a thrill. But once we started to play our games and our team came, started to develop, I thought we had a chance to be good, Rob, but I think the experience, the addition of Sule Boom, the constant development of Desmond Claude and Jerome Hunter, have kind of put us over the top, and just incredibly proud of our team and staff, and very, very happy for Xavier.
There were a lot of people that were ready to kind of write you guys off when Zach got hurt. And I think a lot of that had to do with how good Zach is, right? And then in your first round game, you struggle against the Kennesaw State team, but the guy that keeps you afloat, that kept you in it, kept you from getting blown out, was the guy that came in for Zach Fremantle. What does that say about Jerome, about stepping up when the time is? It's the next man up mentality, right?
Right. And Rob, look, there's not a better example for a young player than Jerome Hunter. When Jerome early on, if you followed us in November, he struggled. I think he wanted a bigger role. He was anxious in games. He would practice, and he's one of our best practice players. He was in November. He still is in March. He works at it every day. He's a great competitor. And, one of the things that I really just tried to talk to him about is, like, I've never seen a player work hard every day and not translate into games. Mm-hmm. And if it isn't, it's really, you're kind of in your own way. The role that you have, you're trying to do something different, or maybe we're not in sync. And, we kept talking to him about it, and eventually it clicked. And as you know, Rob, the first step was he was a really good sixth man. When Zach was playing, it was Zach, but it was the rotation of Jerome coming in and, like, really doing his job. And he played his role. He did his job. He really just followed what we asked him to do. Mm-hmm. Then Zach goes down, and now he has a bigger role in some different jobs. Like, for example, you can't foul. When you're a guy coming off the bench, that's not something you talk to him about. But now, him fouling is not a good thing for our team. But you just keep watching him. And again, it's not that he's been perfect, but he's playing his best basketball right now, in large part because he's accepted his roles. He works hard at it every day. And he is a great competitor. Like, he plays the game to win. And look, against Kennesaw State, I don't know if we advance. He has his career high 24 points in that game. It's somewhat of an understated part of our success. If he doesn't do that, I don't know if we get beyond them. So it's awesome to see him do it. It's a great story for young players as they try to find their way. Instead of giving up, instead of pouting, he really just tried to just accept it and do more of what we're asking. And right now he's playing his best.
Last year during the NCAA tournament, you were just sitting there hoping that Miami didn't make it to the Elite Eight, so you didn't owe Arch a dinner. Now you're
That's
actually coaching it, man. Like it's wild to see how things can change over the course of a year. So let me ask you this. Are you worried about potentially playing Miami in the Elite Eight? Last year you said they couldn't get there. Now you might get them there.
If we're sitting there getting ready to play Houston or Miami, that's a great day for us. I mean, we certainly have our hands full with Texas. You know that, Rob. And but I go back to kind of our talks this year. When you're in a conference, in a great conference like the Big East, especially this season, you know, you're able to learn lessons and play against different styles, different styles of coaches. And when I watch Texas, I think a lot about UConn. I think a lot about Creighton, not because they're the two other teams that are still playing, but the makeup of their teams, talent, bigs, smalls, depth, you know, kind of style. There's some real similarities to Texas. And, you know, in large part, I think we'll rely on those 5 games we played against those two teams as we approach the Texas team, because I think we've played teams kind of like them. And I hope that helps us be more comfortable.
All right. Last thing I got for you. In our intro and the music that gets played on the Field of 68 after dark every single night, you say headlined by John Fanta. Well, John Fanta was supposed to be here for this, but Mr. Hollywood is too big time now. Can we get that changed? Can we get a retraction?
I understand where you're coming from, because him and I did an interview when I was in Greensboro this week. And, you know, if there's ever the definition of a fish out of water, it was looking at him in LA with, you know, palm trees behind him in that ocean. It just didn't feel right, you know, and to see him struggle getting back and his luggage lost and him not being here tonight, it makes perfect sense. You can't take a Cleveland Browns fan and make him do work in LA. Just those things don't coincide. So, yeah, we miss him tonight, but I totally understand why he's not here, Rob. Like, you got to do what you do and stay with who you are, right? He's too far out of the breadbasket. You got to do what you do best,
man. You got to do what you.
He went too far out of the breadbasket, no doubt.
Listen, Sean, I appreciate the time. Best of luck in the Sweet 16. Stop talking to me. Go prepare, man. I know you got stuff to do.
All right, great. Well, always great to be on with you, Rob. Thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
Oh, man. That was we only have like 50 seconds, I think. Rob, that was fantastic. He has done a great job.
He has. You know what I love, LaVall? You can speak to this. We don't have long on it, but like his personality has completely changed. I always used to be intimidated by him. Now I'm like, yeah, I like this dude. I'll get a beer with this guy.
Yeah, you know, I asked him about that just at practices, the year off. You just get a different perspective. You know, obviously he was here, Field of 68, doing stuff last year, but you know that changes things.
Hey, we're back with you tomorrow night, 11 Eastern time with After Dark. We're with you from Vegas later this week. For Rob Dauster, for LaVall Jordan, I'm John Fanta, producer Dagan Hughes, and Kono. Thanks for listening to After Dark.
And you're clear.
It's time for the afters. Man, I got to tell you, this tournament's been awesome, LaVall. Like, what was your highlight? Were your highlights? Like, just tell me how you spent the weekend. Give it to me.
Games were on for sure. It was fun. You know, my 3 daughters, my youngest, she's like all about her bracket. No rhyme or reason to why she picked who she picked. So she was devastated last night when Marquette lost because that was one of the picks. But it's been awesome. You know, you want upsets. Like there's been the huge upset, obviously with Fairleigh Dickinson and that's you Princeton. You know, you got that. You want obviously the best players playing at their best when you look at Jaquez and Timmy and Brandon Miller scoring 19 points in the second game and Sasser. So it's been full of like kind of everything you want in a tournament this year. And so it's just been fun to watch, you know, kind of all the matchups and all the games. It's always about matchups. You know how it is. It's like, so it's been fun to see some surprises in terms of like teams I had, like I didn't, that whole East region, like I'm out. I had Duke going and I had Marquette going, and Coach Izzo screwed me up, and obviously he's a heck of a coach. So like that was way off on that one. So it's just been fun to kind of watch it, and you know you're not going to get it right. You just don't know how it's going to fall.
Do you think Coach Izzo leads? Does he hold the career record for the most brackets busted? It's got to be him, right?
He might. He loves this the most. I'm just telling you. Like when they're not favored, when they're not like this is when is in his element, versus when you got Denzel Valentine and Trice and everyone expects it, and like to be counted out and like that's, and I think a lot of coaches are like that. But I was up there in the fall and saw the guards, and I'm thinking, man, they'll have a shot because they have good guards if they can stay healthy. But I think he's in his element, Rob, just because he can put a chip on the shoulder and everybody count him out, and then he can challenge his guys against Tyler Kolek and Cam Jones and say, hey, everybody's talking about these guards being the best guards in the country, and Tyler Kolek, Biggie, and those guys were ready. So nobody can do that better than this.
No, I think my takeaway from the weekend, of all the different teams that we've seen, and you could talk about impressive performance here, impressive performance there, the fact that they beat Arizona, but then didn't just beat Missouri. If you watched any part of that game, they kicked Missouri's behind. Mitch Henderson and Princeton deserve a ton of love. They are not some by chance, pure luck, Cinderella ball bounce this way. No, they blew out Missouri. They're good enough to beat Creighton. And again, Tosan Awoma is unbelievable as a player.
Excellent job on that pronunciation, by the way. Excellent job. I couldn't get it. I just call him Tosin. The way that I view it is you got Ronaldo, you got LeBron, you got Messi. My man's got Princeton in the Sweet 16, so we got Tosin.
I love him. We should try to get him on this week at some point.
We had him on Thursday night.
How was he?
Great. First of all, second of all, I was not initially expecting the British accent. It kind of threw me off a little bit.
Yeah,
my biggest issue with him, he's a Manchester United supporter, man. Come on. Tosin.
He was awesome, and Ryan Langborg, amazing. And LaVall, this is the story of the tournament. Blake Peters, a sophomore. Blake Peters comes in, has a career high 17 points in the second half of that game against Missouri. In just the second half alone, it was a career high. Their style is dangerous. Missouri tried to zone them, that didn't work. They really clinically beat Missouri.
Yeah, no, it was start to finish in control. The other thing that, John, when I'm watching that stands out is, and I said this on the show the other night, just the gap shrinking, right? From, you look at Kentucky and say, okay, but Antonio Reeves was at Missouri State, and CJ Frederick, with the portal, CJ Frederick transferred in from Iowa, where he was playing a role, like with Luke Garza, Joe Wieskamp, but he wasn't like a guy. He's a role as a shooter, and then Xavier Wheeler down at Georgia obviously transferred in, and it's like, hey, Marquise Noel's not afraid of these dudes. It's not John Wall. And no offense to anybody on the roster, but just in terms of that gap shrinking, when you look at, just transferring up, and it's like, well, D. Gates did an unbelievable job at Missouri. He did 3 players with him from Cleveland State. So when you're Princeton and you're walking in, like if Princeton was playing Cleveland State, we wouldn't be saying that. We'd be talking about a good game.
They were also missing
Missouri jerseys on. We're saying something different.
Who's the kid there? I'm blanking on his name. Trey Gamillion. They were missing
their and he was out.
Like he does,
and they need him.
And it's not to justify getting their ass kicked by Princeton, right? You're an SEC school, you probably should win that game. But when you're missing the guy that kind of brings everything together, there's a lot of those dudes.
Huge.
When Andre Jackson isn't on the floor for UConn, you notice the difference. When I'm blanking on other guys in the moment, but it's just there's glue guys out there that bring everything else together for everybody on the team. And when you don't have those guys, it matters. It impacts what you are. So
Yeah, I think John impressed for me just despite like UCLA and Tennessee, in
Yes.
spite of the injuries. It's like for
Yes.
Tennessee to be here with no Zakai Ziegler, extremely impressive. Because I had him out, I had him losing to Lafayette. Just bet you can't lose your point guard this late on such short notice, and that's hard. And then obviously UCLA with Jalen Clark, their best perimeter defender. You know, he's a switch defender. He's a glue guy, like Rob was talking. You know, that's a big loss. And for those guys to get it done against Boo Booey and the boys, and then do it again, you know, that was impressive for me.
Yeah, that was really impressive. And Olivier Camois just put Tennessee on his back and hit big time. The guy walked into the game having hit 15 threes the entirety of the season, and he hits 3 triples on Saturday in that win. That was crazy. All right, questions. Dagan Hughes. Good evening or good morning, Dagan. How are you?
Hello. I've just been hanging out, listening to you guys. You know, just waiting for my moment. That's all.
Is the chat active, Dagan?
Yeah. We
Oh,
have a few questions.
it's going nuts. They
Is it really?
they loved Sean Miller roasting you.
Yeah, they were big fans of that.
They loved it.
I love him. We go back and forth. He's a huge Steeler fan, and I have a real problem with Steelers.
You said take your terrible towel and shove it up your ass.
I did. And then the ensuing Xavier game, you show up for a Butler game when LaVall was on the sidelines, you get like a Buka gift card, you get taken care of by Butler. They're like, LaVall would always take care of me. I show up to Xavier, and are you kidding me? Sean's got a terrible towel in my press seat. Like, what? I gave it back to him after the game. I said, I have no use for this. And honestly, I would just burn it. So, all right, Dagan, what questions do we have tonight?
Obviously, we've been talking a lot about the coaching carousel tonight. Another report that's been coming out, or some rumors, I guess you could say, that have been coming out, Mike Bray possibly going to South Florida. Would that be a good spot for Mike?
It would
Great retirement spot
for him.
I was going to say it's a great spot for Mike. San Diego's a great spot for Steve Lavin. Was that harsh?
Yeah, I don't think it was a little harsh, but I just, for me, like, I think Coach Bray has had a great career. I think that South Florida is a nice way for him to usher in retirement. I don't see a high ceiling there myself. For USF, they're going to win the press conference, but that's not an easy job, like from a winning standpoint at all.
You can get guys from Florida, but they have I do know that they, like, one of their big donors or big boosters is the guy that owns Outback Steakhouse. Is that right? Something like that, or one of the chains. He's worth like $900 million. So they do have people that would be really willing to spend money if you need the money. Don't be surprised if you see Mike Bray get a whole bunch of dudes that are in Bloomin' Onion commercials.
I could see it. Here's the thing, and this is an interesting point. Like,
all right, real quick before you get on that, if there was one chain restaurant that you could have sponsor you, what would it be? Fanta. What would it be?
Gosh, Rob, that's really hard.
Wow.
Shoot, man. I mean, God.
How about you, LaVall? What would it be?
One chain?
Yeah, it's got to be a chain.
Hard,
Rob, you clearly have an answer in mind, so why don't you start to set the tone?
Well, I think I would probably have to go with Chili's.
Damn it, that was going to be my answer. Chili's.
Yeah, I think I got to go with Chili's.
Elite chain.
Yeah, I take Chili's over Fridays. I take Chili's over Applebee's. There's a Ruby Tuesdays down the street from me, and I went there. We've gone there once to get like takeout, and it was that experience. So I think I got to go with Chili's. The Southwest egg rolls are life changing. I don't know if I'd ever actually.
I'm struggling, LaVall. Which one would you go with?
I'd probably be Chipotle or something.
Yeah,
like
you know what I'm going with?
In and out. I don't need to sit, we don't need to sit and talk.
Can I be candid with you? I know the people of my size.
Oh boy. Oh God.
Bob Evans down on the farm.
And the chat is wondering. The chat is wondering why you didn't pick Chipotle. But obviously, if we watched a couple shows back, everybody would know why you didn't pick Chipotle.
Yeah, everybody would know why. Yeah. She got double steak and then left me. Okay, that was a couple shows back. All right.
I love we get the real Fanta. We get as soon as the after show, we get the real Fanta.
No, you get me on the Monday and Tuesday tournament shows because we don't have games to talk about right off of them, so we can get a little bit like colorful.
Get a little weird.
Yeah. So Bob Evans, for me, you stole Chili's from me.
You can take Chili's too, man. Take it.
You guys could be a duo little sponsorship thing going.
Can you sing the Baby Back Ribs song?
I want my baby back ribs, Chili's baby back.
Go ahead, Rob. You take the low. Let John take the high.
Barbecue sauce.
Hagen? What else do we have?
What's going on? Yeah, let's get back to actual questions here. I'm actually going to take a question from Yuli. This could be Yuli's first ever good question in the YouTube chat. So everybody give it up for Yuli. We're going to take his question here. He wants Fanta, you specifically, to rank the Big East teams for next season, power rankings for next year for the Big East. Quickly.
Right.
Yeah,
sure.
You can't do that. The rosters aren't set.
No, you can, and then we'll change it later.
Okay, the rosters aren't set, but I'll just try to throw it out there. Marquette won. They're going to return pretty much everybody. They should be a preseason top 5 team heading into next year because their roster is pretty much set. All those guys are going to be back. So that's my case for them. You know, I would put Connecticut 2. I think that you could throw Xavier in at 3, Xavier 2 or 3. I think Creighton's at 4. I'm throwing.
You just threw Xavier in there with no Nunji, Fremantle, or Kobe Jones.
I just trust Sean Miller already. I just do. I know. You know what? Villanova, St. John's, if not St. John's, Villanova. And then we'll see. It's a bit of a hodgepodge from there. Like Seton Hall, where do they fall here? Providence is going to take a step back. I mean, they just will. And then where does Georgetown do? How does Georgetown pan out? Where does Georgetown get picked in the preseason poll? It's going to be fascinating to see where they get selected.
I'm going to go ahead and say lower than they should.
Okay.
I have no data to back this up, but I always felt like I always felt like Ed's teams were just better than what you thought they were going to be. Right? He has a way to find ways to win games. We make fun of the Friars luck thing, but it's not luck finding ways to win close games, right? That's not fluky. Sometimes it is because like you could scheme up a good shot and the shot doesn't go in, but when you're doing it consistently year over year, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's mindset.
Go ahead, LaVall.
Ed builds a mindset. He tells his guys, "Hey, get me to the last 4 minutes." And like just get me to the last 4 minutes. And so and I've heard him say that before. So it's good. Can we stop with the fraud, like the Ed Cooley fraud stuff from people that I know they're upset and it's hard to take, but he's one of the best dudes like out there. Right. And it's nothing like he's as genuine as they come. You know, there are hard decisions to be made when you're in the profession, when you're talking about uprooting families and, you know, staff changes or all these tough decisions you have to make that affect a ton of people, and fans included. But it's like we do this with LeBron, or it's like all this comparison stuff. Just enjoy what you had. Like, hey, you had an unbelievable time and a great run with a great dude, and he had to make a hard decision. Like, that's it. But
I think what they're most upset
it's not like fraudulent. Nothing about it was fraudulent.
Well, what they're mad about, I think more than him leaving, what they're mad about is the fact that they feel like this decision was made weeks ago, that it's the reason why they lost 4 straight down the stretch. And that the proof of this is the fact that there was some random report that Eddie Lampkin had committed to Georgetown an hour after Ed had his press conference. Well,
here's the truth is you're recruiting the transfer portal while you're still playing. Everybody is.
Yes.
Right.
You know what Eddie Lampkin, he hasn't committed, but you know what he's doing? He ain't committed to Georgetown. He's committed to Ed Cooley.
Yeah,
he's
kids
committed to the staff
coaches as much as anything. So if a coach leaves, there's a high chance he might follow him. but I don't think decision was made. What stinks is it's when it's at that level, like there's the understanding and it getting out, rumors getting out, and then it affects your players. As a coach, there's nothing more. You're trying to keep things under wraps so that you can be the person to tell your players. That's all you care about. Whether you're getting fired, whether you're changing, like any transition, you just want to be the one to deliver the news to the guys. And it's so hard to do that today because we're 2023 and there's all the outlets, social media. But, and when it's Iona, everybody understands because you're moving up.
Yes, well said.
But nobody
Exactly.
says anything, right? When you go from Iona to St. John's, they're all difficult decisions, So
yeah, and I would just say, I think that Ed, my gut feeling is we're going to see tears from Ed Cooley on Wednesday when he gets introduced to Georgetown. I think for a guy that grew up with nothing, came from nothing in Providence, he has reflected on the fact that when he was growing up, from house to house, like heat and air conditioning and water were never guaranteed for him growing up. He came from a very tough place, tough roots. Now he takes pride in fighting through that, but he has idolized John Thompson. This is very real. He idolized Big John. And if you're Georgetown and you finally are at a point where you're like, there's nobody left in the family, we need to make the right hire here. We cannot get this wrong. Look, they did the right thing. I mean, you have to call Ed Cooley. You had to. They did, and they got him. And I know that Providence fans are upset and mad and angry, and I get it. I get that fans are mad and angry, and I understand.
You know what I'm saying, John? Like, shoe on the other foot, when coaches get let go, they don't bust open the first mic they see and call all the fans frauds that were like, the coaches get fired, they don't turn, and it's like, hey,
I know.
you had an opportunity, you're thankful for it.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's hard to swallow, but everybody will be okay.
It's hard. I mean, in the moment right now, I talked with somebody on the inside of Providence in the last 2 hours, and I said, so, what's your updated thought process? I said, we're moving forward, but they said in the now, Ed Cooley's legacy is dead here. Now, I think that's a stretch and that's a lot. I think it's a heat of the moment type thing, but, this is, to Rob's earlier point, like it's a great thing for the Big East in that the Big East television rights deal is up in 2 years. I would say that whenever the rights deal gets renewed or a new rights holder emerges, whatever that ends up being, whoever that ends up being, we will look back at these 36 hours to say that determined the dollar figure next to that rights deal, because
you got 8 teams that are interesting now.
Yes,
this is the best basketball conference in America now.
And 2 of the biggest brands. The fact is, in this iteration of the Big East, when the Big East reconfigured, the instant thought process was, God, Georgetown and St. John's, you have got to pull your weight here. They haven't at all. But these other schools,
that's a real conversation.
These other schools have. What happened today came down to St. John's finally having a competent president who understands the power of basketball, to be candidly honest, and Georgetown saying enough is enough. These 2 schools were sick and tired of being the butt of jokes. So they said, you know what? We've got money. We've got Madison Square Garden, or we've got our traditional brand. We're ponying up, and we are going and getting our guys. They finally got the guys that we've always theorized about, but we never thought would actually happen. Guess what? It freaking happened. Big question.
I just, can I add to that real quick? Like,
of course you can.
The fact that this is a basketball only league means that there's always going to be like a need to kind of get tricky with it, right? To be able to, I don't want to say like do stuff that will like gimmicky or anything like that, but having people care about basketball in that league more than anything else It matters. Like that's what the Big East needs. They need themselves to be the big beast. They need themselves to be the best basketball conference in America. They need to be the pinnacle, right? When you only got basketball, you don't have football. You don't have all the money coming in the SEC, the Big Ten. You don't have that. You basketball only, right? You need to make it be the best possible product. And I don't know how you can have, just generally speaking, a better possible product than one that now has Rick Pitino coaching in New York with a team that is going to be good, and Ed Cooley coaching that program. Probably, correct me if I'm wrong, either of you, chat, someone yell at me if I'm wrong at this. I still think that the biggest national brand in the Big East is Georgetown. Everybody growing up,
That's true.
everyone our age growing up, viewed Georgetown, Hoya Paranoia, Allen Iverson, Patrick Ewing. Like for the people that are old enough to spend a lot of money on stuff, right? Like Georgetown is still something that is super relevant and super meaningful. And I think the evidence is that Ed Cooley left his hometown school to go to a program that won 6 games last year and had 2,000 people in a 20,000 seat building. The drama of it, right? And Providence fans, you're gonna hate it. It's gonna be hard watching, but like the drama of him coming back to Providence is gonna be something that people want to see, like it or not. Like people want that. That's what drives eyeballs. Conflict drives eyeballs. It is what it is. It's a content business, right? At the end of the day, what we're putting on is a TV show. You don't know the outcome. That's part of the drama, but you need to have some kind of narrative and some kind of hook to get people to say, I gotta watch that shit tonight. And you know what? Everybody's going to be watching that Providence, like the Ed Cooley's return to Georgetown. They just are. It's going to happen. And it's a great thing for the league. And the biggest thing, fans, I know you got something to say. Biggest thing is now, the thing about the Big 12 that made it so good this year is any night that you turned it on, you were basically turning on a game where you were going to have 2 teams that were in the conversation for the NCAA tournament. Now, sometimes you're getting, Oklahoma playing Texas Tech, and it's just kind of a snooze fest, right? But you're going to kind of get that in the Big East this year, because I think I do think that there is enough momentum at Providence, and the facilities there are good enough, and they're going to pay well enough, and they have NIL going. It's not going to be this thing where it goes down and it's like it ends up being another DePaul, right? It's just not going to be a doormat. They're going to be good. They're going to be
they've got a good setup over there.
Yeah, they're going to have a shot.
It's not what Providence used to be before Ed came.
So they got a shot. So like. I think you legitimately can have 8 to 9 teams that are in the NCAA tournament conversation next year. And a couple of them can win a national title. That's how good it's going to be. The league is going to be awesome. It's in an unbelievable spot. Marquette's bringing everybody back, man. They're bringing everybody back. UConn's going to bring a whole bunch of talent back. And oh, by the way, they got a loaded recruiting class coming in. Just an FYI, just so you know, right? Xavier's got Sean Miller, who's starting to figure this thing out. St. John's is going to get it going. I'm so fired up about the Big East. Like it's back. LaVall, it's back. You're going to end up blocking my number.
Where'd it go?
You are going to block my number next year.
You're saying it's back. Like there's 3 Big East teams in the season. Where'd it go?
We need 6. The league ain't real unless you get 6. Let's double that.
There's 2 stories that come to mind. And obviously there's a special place in my heart for the league because they gave a 21-year-old kid at Seton Hall a shot to do some interviews with some people and said, you know what, maybe we'll hang on to him a little bit. Like when you're young in this, you need someone to take a shot on you. And the Big East gave me a shot. They did. And, there's different people that work for different conference networks all over the country and do an amazing job. And the Big East does not have a Big East network on TV, but I get to do the Big East network on Twitter and YouTube. And what I can say is throughout the years, what's great about doing this role is they really give me the autonomy to go to the games that I think are the biggest games. And in the past couple of years, I'll go to a game and it's primarily been, UConn big home game, a Providence big home game, maybe Marquette or Creighton here or there, Xavier here or there. Never to Georgetown. Almost never to St. John's, to be candidly honest, unless it was a big time brand coming in. Villanova, never DePaul. But like my point is, anytime you pick one, there's other coaching staffs texting saying, where the hell were you? Why didn't you pick this game? Or why didn't you pick our game? Or why aren't you ever in Milwaukee? You have a Northeast bias, whatever. Okay, that's fine. My point, it's going to be really hard to pick the best games in this league every Saturday, the best game in this league every Wednesday. And I would just follow it up because I was looking at LaVall and I thought of this.
Victoria's going to be real mad when you really rack up those freaking flower miles next year, man. She's going to be like, give me my Fanta back.
Who?
Your fiance.
Well, the wedding's in September. So
True.
just like St. John's locked up Patino, I got a deal done here. Okay. There ain't no, I got the dotted line. I'm pressed up here. All right. We're getting that deal out of the way. Needless to say, the other story I wanted to share, and I'm sorry to go on story time, but LaVall knows this from coaching at Butler. Right around September, October, I would go out to each campus, see everybody practice, and then talk with you and your players when you're done for sit-downs. And Kamar Baldwin, great Butler player, great player for coach. You know, Kamar, at least to me, like, didn't always say a lot. You know, he was yes, sir, no, sir, thank you, sir. Like, most polite kid, nicest kid ever. I love the kid. I hope he's doing great. We're sitting down for a conversation, and I sit down with him, and we're talking a little bit here and there. And he looks at me. It's the only time he ever said this to me. He goes, "Hey, I got a question for you, sir." Because I got a question for you, sir. I'm like 23, 24. Like, I don't need to be called sir. I looked up and I go, "Yeah, what's that?" He goes, "So, like, you have the best job in college basketball, right?" And I looked at him and I said, "You know what, Kamar? Yeah, I do. Because I get to cover this league. And covering this league closely, it just means more. And now the programs that it means most to are back on the map."
Mm-hmm. Bingo. That is the perfect way to say it, Fanta. The perfect way to say it.
Dagan, are there any other question
Well,
answers?
I got to be honest. That was just like the perfect way to end the show. So I feel like we should do a toast after that. That was like too
Let's
good.
go to toast,
Like,
man.
take
Right,
a random
but
question
LaVall-
about God knows what.
LaVall, isn't that Kamar Baldwin to a T?
Oh, to a T. To a T, sir.
What's he up
still calls
to?
me sir. He's grown. He's married. He's got a kid. He still calls me sir. I love him.
He was.
He's in
if
Maine. He's
I'm
with
not
the Celtics G League team right now.
Good
Playing
for
well.
him. Good. Nicest kid ever. And I got to tell you, I know that this might come off as a hot take to some. If I had to pick a Big East player from the last 5 years that's taken the final shot in the game, I'm sorry. I'm taking Kamar Baldwin.
Oh, yeah.
That kid hit more shots for Butler.
I know who I'm picking in that one.
Right?
My money. Oh, yeah. He had it. He had it. And he could be 1 for 9. He's one of those guys, Rob. He could be 1 for 9. He still had it.
He's still hitting it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's fun. It's fun. It'll be fun to have the coaches. Just, you think about, like, there's no Coach K, there's no Roy Williams, there's no Boeheim in the ACC. You know, all these coaches are kind of fine. Coach Larinaga, Coach Hamilton, but the coaches that you're going to talk about are in the Big East. There'll be a lot of talk about that. So that's a good. It's a big fun for you, John.
And look, the coaches, that's what drives. Those are the brands, right? The coaches are the brands. It's not as much the players because as soon as a player becomes great, he's probably heading off to the NBA. That's just what it is in college basketball, right? The coaches at this level are the ones that people kind of connect with. And not to get back in the Cooley conversation, but that's probably why there's a lot of hurt feelings right now and disappointing people in Friartown. Should we do our toast?
Got a toast?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'll go. You know what my toast is going to be? My toast is to all of the Friar fans out there, okay? Because I know you guys are going through it. Look, right there. The only team I care about as much as UConn, right there. Tottenham Hotspur. They fired their coach today too. He was the guy that was supposed to. He's won everywhere he's gone. So the team that I support, right, the soccer team, never wins anything. Like, that's what they do. They're always good enough to, like, make it to the championship game. They're always good enough to finish like second or third in the league. They never win anything. And we hired a guy that wins everywhere he goes and destroys the teams in the club, in the clubhouse, in the locker room, and destroys it in the process. He didn't win anything and destroy the clubhouse in the process. So I'm with you. Friar fans. I'm toasting. It's a rough one. I feel you.
Okay. Coach.
My toast tonight is to Val Ackerman,
Yeah, that's a good one.
the commissioner of the Big East Conference, who dominated the day, dominating in the tournament, dominated the
True.
press headlines when she took over with all the realignment, for Val. She lost her right-hand man, Stu Jackson. But in 2013, when everything changed for the Big East and she took over and all the stuff, now you look up and, like you just said, John, she is in pole position to be the commissioner for, she's got to be like, I don't know what Val's drink of choice is, but I'm sure she's having a glass of wine and
I need about
just
3 of them,
thinking
Val. Send 'em
about
over this
new
way.
TV media deal, pack Madison Square Garden for St. John home games, Big East tournament. Did you think about that when the Big East tournament comes to Madison Square next year? Oh my gosh. So cheers to you, Val Ackerman, because I know she is she's thrilled about this one.
Yep. All right, Fanta. Take us home, Fanta.
So I'm back in New Jersey. I'm cheersing New Jersey, the great Garden State. All right. I don't care if it's Taylor ham or pork roll or whatever your debate might be. The great state of New Jersey has quite literally snatched headlines in back-to-back years in the NCAA tournament in the most improbable fashion imaginable. I honestly, I can't remember the last time I've seen something and I actually teared up watching it. Everything that Tobin Anderson and his team were doing over the last 72 hours, a couple of times I was like, God, this is really, really cool. This is a school that would otherwise go totally unnoticed. And this morning they were on the Today Show. They were all over the media scene. Cheers to Jordan Sarnoff, the junior at FDU.
That's incredible, by the way.
Unbelievable.
I've dealt with him like 4 different times. Like I had no idea. This kid's like 21, LaVall. He's the SID of the team that just pulled off the biggest upset ever.
I saw that. Young Fanta. He's a young Fanta.
Yeah.
He's awesome. Nicest kid ever. And FDU, great for them. Tobin, hats off. I loved his fishing rant that after he gets done starting to build towards next year, he just wants to go fishing. And I just thought Jamie Erdahl's interview with him after the win, when she asked him about his dad, if that doesn't hit you.
She got him to cry, man. Hey, Jamie had herself a tournament too.
Andrew Catalan, Steve Lapis, that whole crew had an unbelievable weekend together. And I don't know about you guys. I'm so excited. They're in Vegas, Rob. Harlan, Van Gundy, and Bonner. I thought they were great. I mean, I learned something from Van Gundy. He talks scheme. He really tells you what is going on, and he does not hold back.
Hey,
if somebody makes it.
Did you see that video of Harlan, the shot of just the announcers doing the Kihei Clark call? The thing that I loved was when Harlan made the call and did the holdback thing, because that is exactly what Fanta did when Mike Bothwell hit the game winner of the game that we had on field at 68. Tio was like, I was trying to say something, but Fanta just held me back like this.
I stopped T.O. short, like in Seinfeld in the back of the car. Stopped him short.
You're the only person that can get him to stop talking, apparently.
Well, we'll find out the answer to that. What, in how many hours are we on the air with him? 8 hours to talk all these things on a brand new DTF, and then I'm zipping to the Garden for this Patino presser. I think we're in for big statements tomorrow. I can already feel it in my veins. I am here to win it all. New York City is back. I'm just so excited for this. I'm so freaking, and you know this, Robin LaVall. I'm sorry, Dagan, we're belaboring. He's gonna bring in big time non-conference teams to the Garden.
Oh yeah,
he will get, because they want to play at the Garden.
Yes, this is such a good thing for. I'm so fired up.
Fanta won't sleep tonight. Fanta's not gonna sleep tonight. How many hours of sleep you gonna get tonight, John?
I'm trying to go to bed right off of this. I'm trying all the stuff.
Good luck, man.
I tweeted the Cooley thing, and then boarded the plane back home. Wi-Fi didn't work for United. So I went 5 hours watching. What did we even watch? We watched some shitty chick flick on the United flight that she said, your phone's not working. You don't have Wi-Fi. It's my time now. And she put on some girls movie that I have the headphone in and I'm watching. I'm like, oh God, what is going on in the world underneath the sky as I'm watching some date night movie. But
You know what I just saw?
What?
The NCAA has invited Jordan Sarnoff
Yes.
to attend the Final Four and help with media coordination. That's awesome.
Yes.
Oh, what a great gesture.
We are getting
I don't know
him
who
on
that
our
was.
show. We are getting him on the air.
Yeah, what a great gesture. That's awesome. That makes me really happy. All right, Fanta, take us home. We're still going.
Great stuff, guys. Dagan Hughes.
Did you ever do a toast, by the way, or did you just start talking?
Yeah, I toasted the great state of New Jersey.
Oh, there you go.
I'm sorry, but seeing SVP, seeing Scott Van Pelt do his one big thing on the Big East, that's got to be the first time that ESPN has done a major. Seriously, that's big. All right, for Dagan, for Rob Dauster, for Coach Jordan, I'm John Fanta. We're back with you in 22 and a half hours for After Dark, and then we're heading to Vegas. Good night, everybody.
Baby.